The Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates this year to fight, they say, inflation. Now, some say there's nothing the Federal Reserve can do to combat this type of inflation. Most of this inflation, I say, is due to supply chain issues, the war in Ukraine, climate catastrophe, COVID, OPEC raising prices, and of course, other price gouging monopolies besides OPEC. Don't forget, rent is 1/3 of inflation. You bring down the price of rent through rent control, you bring down inflation. But when the Fed raises interest rates, that means mortgages go up. U.S. mortgage rates are now at a 16-year high, which means it's gotten very expensive to borrow money to buy an apartment or refinance the mortgage you already have on your apartment. That's why last month, the number of applications for new mortgages dropped 14%. People are no longer looking to borrow money to buy an apartment or a home. It's gotten too expensive. Home prices now, you would think, would come down, right? That's what you would expect. But not really. They're not coming down significantly. I'll explain that in a second. But more importantly, renters. What about people who rent? Half the people in America who rent live at or below the poverty line. They're not in the market to buy a home. They're looking to rent, and rents are going up almost exponentially. And raising interest rates, as I see it, is going to do nothing to solve the shortage of housing. If anything, it's only going to exacerbate the shortage of housing. We need about 5 million new housing units in this country. The government isn't really building new units. The Inflation Reduction Act that just got passed addresses some of this problem, but not enough. So it's still left to investors, realtors like Jared Kushner to build more homes. And how do they build more homes and apartments? They borrow money. And if it costs too much to borrow, they don't build. So the price of homes will go down a little, but private equity, companies like Blackstone, swoop in and buy up all these apartments, all these homes. They did it in Spain. 2 years ago, at the height of COVID, Blackwater became Spain's largest landlord, owning more than 100,000 rental assets. I want to talk about an absentee landlord? Blackstone doesn't even live in Spain. So when you own rental assets, you can leave a couple of those units empty and write it off on your taxes. There are just as many empty apartment buildings in New York City as there are homeless people. And the people who own these empty buildings just write it off on their taxes. And most importantly, wherever there isn't rent control, you are free to pass along higher interest rates to your tenants. Rent is going to go up along with Jerome Powell's interest rates. Inflation is a serious problem, too serious a problem to be left to Jerome Powell and the other central bankers who caused this mess.